Let me set the scene for you. You are my flock of familiars. This is my domain, and I am a weaver of stories and magic alike. Welcome to RPG Horror Stories, narrated by me, Limerence. A little introduction is in order first. I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons for over 8 years now, and have brief experiences in other tabletop RPGs, like Blades in the Dark and the Savage World system. I've been a player in various groups and DM to others, some of close friends, and others from strangers across the realms. Firstly, thank you for all the likes, subscriptions, and shares on my previous video. I'm very grateful for such a positive response and motivated to continue bringing you more stories that make your dice dash from their trays and your character sheets shrivel. Our first story is from Fluffy Passenger 6870. Campaign brought to its knees by an avalanche of bad events. Well, honestly, the title sums it up, but I'll share in case anybody wants to read my group's learning experience. For some context, we play in person on a set day of the week. The group is 7 people, DM included, and if we're missing 2, we skip. Table is 2 couples and some close friends. The couples matter. One is myself, the DM, and my husband. We also host, so we're almost always committed and available. The other couple is the main problem. We'll call them Jesse and Doug. So for 4 months, we all played fine-ish. One couple that we started playing with, not Jesse and Doug, were new to D&D and weren't really vibing with it. We could all tell. My husband and I offered to meet them out at dinner and asked them about it. When we offered to let them step away from the table, they seemed overjoyed. They were busy, stressed about other things, and D&D was too much on the top. We're still friends, honestly. Happy endings there. I would just like to quickly interject here and say that open communication with your players and an awareness of their body language and feelings are brilliant skills to have. This shows real care about player enjoyment, and that's all anyone wants at the end of the day. To have fun with friends. It's not a skill set that everyone possesses, and it's also a skill set that some others have to put a lot more work into. But it's something very worth putting the effort in for, not only just for tabletop RPGs, but in life. 2 spots were now open, and Jesse had been wanting to join our group, again, for a long time. Last time, Jesse was a bit of a cluster, but we blamed it on personality mismatch with someone else at the time. This somebody else isn't at the table anymore, so I asked the rest of the table for their opinions. They said let Jesse join, so I did. Before Jesse joined, or even had concepts of a character, anything, I pulled Jesse to the side and explained where the campaign was at and the party dynamic. It was a serious campaign tone with lots of political intrigue plots. People moved in the shadows. That was perfect for them, and she made a character. Everything looked great. One of the single friends then stepped away. Life got in the way. It's okay, I get it, life happens. But as far as the core campaign is concerned, we've lost 3 of the original players, and we're at level 8 of a campaign that had planned to go to 20. Jessie had been getting driven to D&D by her boyfriend Doug. Doug had always taken a passive interest in D&D and wanted to join. NBD, let's add him. I have no idea what NBD means. Somebody enlighten me in the comments please, and let's just pretend I know, alright? Because I do know. Totally, absolutely. Somebody tell me what it means. Barbarians are simple enough anyway.
Huh?
Wow, that's a dig. And he played video games. He was legitimately fun to play with. By this time I think we were level 10 or 11, so jumping in on a plot-rich, high-level campaign had to be, well, a power word pain. I acknowledged this, and he handled it as best as anybody could ask. Here's where things started to fall apart though. Jesse and Doug missed. A lot. Out of a month, maybe we played twice. Somebody always had a birthday, worked late, had tummy issues, something, you name it. Which on a human level I understand wholeheartedly. However, when one missed, they both missed. Jessie didn't have her own transportation and relied on Doug. Having a super plot-rich campaign and missing that frequently absolutely murdered our pacing. Jessie was a chronic weed smoker. Now, we didn't have any actual house rules for sobriety. Honestly, as long as you could do your own math, nobody really cared. This girl was gassing us out and caused us to leave the room once and open the windows on more than one occasion. She'd end up completely baked and then useless for RP. Laughing at weird times, not understanding sense of urgency, losing the plot threads. Just weird stuff. I did try, before this campaign completely fell apart, to address this with Jessie. When I brought it up, I was immediately shut down, super defensive, sorry I didn't realise, and bailed on a Discord call as soon as possible. Honestly, a way more hostile interaction than I intended. I wanted to try and talk about what the impact was besides just, don't smoke weed. But whatever. As DMs should have open communication with their players, so should players, to other players and to their DMs. Completely shutting down, becoming defensive or hostile, it defeats the purpose of a conversation and it's a hindrance to both sides. I can understand where Jessie is coming from. Perhaps they're insecure about it, perhaps they have other stuff going on driving them to overconsume, or perhaps they're just happy with how things are. However, if the DM is coming to you empathetically and trying to discuss something with you that they or others have noticed as a disruption, then try not to take it personally. Explain your thoughts and hear them out. Only then can you get to a better place, for the sake of the group. About the last straw was when we had a serious moment. The party needed to stop the succubus from giving birth to the king's heir because it was going to be a sacrifice to tear a hole through the astral sea. High Jessie's first thought was to grab a castle guard, grab their dig, and twist it.
Wait a minute!
I lost it. The stakes couldn't have been higher and she couldn't take anything seriously. Somehow I managed to power through that session, but after that I crumbled. I informed Jessie, and unfortunately Doug by circumstance, that I thought it was better if they step away from the D&D table after this campaign. Jessie quit immediately. Jessie was one of my maids of honor. I had 2 at my wedding, and I haven't heard from her since. We immediately leveled up the rest of the group to level 20, finished the campaign, and were on a brief break until the next one. Writing this, I've already come to peace with what has happened. I just wanted to share if anybody else is on the fence about what to do. Please try to address your problematic players sooner and allow for correction. And if you receive feedback about your play, please be receptive. Nobody would try this hard if we did not care. This scenario is, to be dramatic, quite tragic. To think, the original poster of this story and Jessie were such good friends that Jessie was a maid of honor for her DM's wedding. And this was how their friendship ended. I can sympathize with the DM here. It can't have been easy to ask such a close friend to step away from the group after the campaign ends, but I think ultimately they did the right thing. They seemed understanding and patient with good communication with their player, but unfortunately, it appears that Jessie wasn't as receptive or understanding. Now, who knows what was going on with Jessie at the time, and I do want to extend my empathy to them as well. As OP said here, if you have a problematic player at your table, address it when the problem arises, so that the player can adjust or make their own decisions about whether your game is right for them. Our next story is from Bee's Nectar. Player accuses me of using D&D to entrap a person I was already in a relationship with. This sounds like an interesting read. Emma and I had been friends for years, but were in good relationships. Neither of us flirted or showed romantic interest, but eventually we fell out of our relationships and kind of just found each other. It wasn't official, and neither of us were the cause of our relationships failing, just one of those things. Neither of us were really ready for another relationship, and we were friends and adults and both consented, so fine. Whatever. This wasn't really a secret in our friend group. There were ample jokes of us wandering off together, or Emma mysteriously being at my house. We took it in stride. None of it really offended us. Anyway, I started the campaign and they all made their characters. It was a campaign that was based off of Curse of Strahd, but heavily changed. The idea was that it was another group of adventurers that entered Strahd's game, but different characters, different people with the same souls. You get the idea. I had a session 0 and went over house rules, expectations, etc., then asked if there were any concerns. John, who was a friend of a friend in our major group, spoke up and said politely at the time that he was concerned given that Emma and I were dating that I'd show her favoritism. I basically told him that it's a valid concern, but I've definitely been on the other end of that and it felt horrible, and I promised that I'd do everything I can to mitigate it. But understand that some things can be unconscious, so if him and Fred ever felt like she was being showed favoritism, they can very much talk to me about it. Little strange that favoritism would be brought up so immediately. I have a question for you. Do you think there's a red flag raising its head yet? Fred, one of my better friends, jokingly piped up, "Don't worry, they aren't dating. He just rolled a natural 20 on his charisma check." Emma and I laughed, again because we didn't care. It is what it is, but John was clearly confused. He asked if we were dating, and we sort of just briefly said we were both out of large relationships and were just playing it by ear. I didn't feel like it was his business anyway, so I sort of just left it at that. John clearly quieted after this. The campaign honestly only lasted a couple of sessions, mainly because John just sort of became an ass to Emma. Emma is generally a very low confrontation person, and I needed to learn during our friendship that there is a fine line between standing up for her and walking over her. So I generally felt she could defend herself, and it never, at least in person, was so blatant that Fred and I stepped in. However, in private, I told her that if it's too much, to let me know. She said she would. Okay. There it is. Do you see it? The red flag? Yeah, right there. In the corner of your eye? Do you see it? It sort of blew up for one reason. Emma's character had ties to the Vistani. Nothing broken, she couldn't traverse the mists, etc. I made it clear that that was not allowed. But John messaged me privately about her character being offensive. Again, I sort of understood that this is a touchy subject for some, so I asked him clearly, is there anything specifically about it that offended him, and that I would do my best to change it. I told him that I would do my best not to lean into the stereotypes and just use them as a fantasy group. He started by saying that he has Romani ancestry, which he very well could have. However, he is the whitest guy I know, who worked in an office and lived in a townhouse, and whose favourite restaurant was Raising Cranes, so whatever. That's just me being snarky. People's ethnicity is not my place to judge, and I get that. So again, I asked what I could change. Can anybody tell me what a Raising Cranes restaurant is? Is that an American thing? I have no idea. Please enlighten me. And he said, I guess it's just annoying to see a promiscuous character flaunting those stereotypes. Mind you, Emma's character was not flirty at all. She was a barbarian who liked to hit things. This immediately stopped everything. I told him that he needs to learn to separate IC and OOC, and I didn't feel like this group was a safe place for him to learn that. He immediately blew up and said, "At least I don't use D&D in some weird power plays over women." Nani? I just blocked him. It wasn't worth it. I told the others and we kind of went no contact. We told the friend of his who was our friend what happened and he was apologetic, which, yeah, I would be too. The funny thing is, Emma and I didn't even end up dating. It was a fun fling that just wasn't romantic. But apparently that was enough to offend some. First of all, I understand that some people are more sensitive to stereotypes than others, and it's important that we all try our best not to perpetuate harmful stereotypes regarding culture and ethnicity. However, it doesn't seem to me like that was what was happening in this scenario. It seemed to me that John, for some reason, took a dislike to or was uncomfortable with the fact that DM and Emma were dating, not dating, and thus took it out on Emma both in and out of game. After DM's attempt at helping John to be more comfortable or more understanding of player etiquette, and being met with an odd accusation in return, blocking him and removing him altogether seemed like the right thing to do. It was great to hear that John's friend in the group was understanding and even apologetic. I understand feeling responsible for bringing the problem player into the group, though I hope that they know that it wasn't their fault things turned out the way they did. Thank you for listening to my humble ramblings. Subscribe, share and like the video if you'd like to see more tabletop RPG content from me. Tap that bell if you'd like to be notified of my future astral projections. If you have any stories you'd like me to read, react to, and maybe give advice regarding, please link them in the comments down below. You can also expect other tabletop RPG content from me in the future, so if you have subjects you'd like me to cover, please leave those in the comments below as well. For now, I bid you farewell, my flock of familiars.